and stuff you don't. It's the Ben and Bren Show.
Amanda,
Hello.
thank you for coming on to the Ben and Bren Show.
Of course. Thank you
We're
for having me.
So stoked to have you. So stoked. This has been somewhat in the making.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're outnumbered in the
excited.
studio today. We got 3 ladies in here.
No.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You've got the ladies in the
I'm in touch with my
house.
feminine energy too.
Jupiter.
You're too. So.
I'm definitely in touch with my masculine energy,
yeah.
I think. So
Yeah.
we balance each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we all got it. Actually, this is an interesting idea. So I talk about these books all the time on this podcast. I feel like
You gonna say Sapiens and Homo Deus?
well, that author Yuval.
Yuri Naval. God, you're all
We'll get
Navari. I forget.
We'll get it right one of these
We'll get
days.
it right.
Have you ever heard of this book, Sapiens?
I've heard of it, yes.
So that author, he's got a few of them. I'm like obsessed with them. But basically, he's talking about in one of the books that science has even showed this. The idea, there's the idea of we all have one unique voice and we're all individuals, where science is proving that that's actually not really the case. There are multiple parts.
It's a
of
spectrum.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are like the phrase or the word individual, meaning indivisible, is not scientifically backed. We are
Right.
very individual as individuals. There's parts to us, and sort of he was saying how I forget people with which condition they were sort of doing tests on, but if you have one side of the brain isolated to where it can't communicate with the other side of the brain, it will give different responses to questions depending on what part of the
Oh.
brain is engaged. And so
I'll
I
have to
always
add that
think,
to my book list.
yeah, it's really good.
It's a great
really good.
listen to. In fact, I was listening to it last night to go to sleep. I listened to it's just such a thick book. I mean, it's a chronicling of human history. So, like I'll pop it in my ears on a plane ride or whatever, or sleep. But I mean, I'm getting like a good half of a chapter before I'm passing
I was
out.
going to
But
say, you
it's
sleep,
just-
and I was like, what are you
it's
remembering?
It's just increments, at a time. I have listened to it in its entirety like many times at this
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah, it's great. Great.
It's a really good book.
Yeah.
And we also geek out on
Yeah,
that
this is probably
kind
the
of
4th
shit.
time we mentioned it on the podcast.
Oh,
so
really?
People,
Okay.
our
At
listeners are probably,
least.
we
At
get
least.
it. Yeah.
I've been diving into the books for the past year or so, really trying to read
Yes.
more. So I'll
What have you been
definitely
reading?
add that. There's this one book that I've been telling everybody that they should
Okay.
read. And it's this book by this woman. Her name is Dr. Nicole LaPera, and
Okay.
it's called How to Do the Work.
How to do the work.
Have you heard of it?
I don't think so.
Okay, please add it to your book list.
Amazing.
It's so she's a psychologist, but she calls herself the holistic psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And her approach is
Sorry.
her approach is to psychology is basically essentially, and I'm very much like sort of paraphrasing, and this is a very like simplistic way of looking at her definition.
That's how we
of-
analyze things on this podcast.
Okay, okay, perfect.
Very paraphrased.
But she calls herself a holistic psychologist, and she sort of incorporates this concept of like mind, body, spirit healing into understanding ourselves as human beings and how to process, life, emotional, physical
Man.
trauma. And
Come
the
on.
book is not really, I imagine you might find it in like the self-help or the psychology section of a bookstore, but I don't think it's a self-help book. I really think it's more of sort of like this analytical way of looking at human beings and how we can just kind of be more aware so that we can tweak certain things about ourselves in order to just become more fuller, people.
Yep.
sure.
So it's a really great book. I've read it once. I've recommended it to a ton of friends. I was literally just talking about it this morning to a girlfriend. I'm like, I need to read that book again.
How to do the work.
How to do the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reality
That's
gets
totally up our alley.
really strange when you get our age. Like,
I mean, I
it
feel
really
like
does.
reality is always strange.
It's
It
strange.
is, but like we're coming to terms. I think when you hit 30, perhaps for me, particularly mid 30s, and then the last few years now that I'm 37 now, that it's really mortality becomes a little more clearer and clearer each year.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's very real. You're not a kid anymore, but you also still feel like a kid in ways.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever really. I don't know if I ever really want to grow out of that either.
I feel like you don't.
You don't. Yeah.
Because my grandmother is about to be 93, and
she's
sometimes
silly.
I talk to her, and in her mind, she's like, I still feel like
Yeah.
I'm 40.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
my
yeah.
parents say.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Good.
like,
Good for her.
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, it's so weird looking into the mirror and I'm this old person
Yeah.
because I literally feel like I'm
think-
your age.
I think the
You
most
do
terrifying.
not look like. Oh, you mean your grandparents?
My parents
'Cause I was
saying that.
like,
My parents saying that. Yeah.
I think.
I'm on my way.
I think the scariest thing for me is not even death. It would be like dementia.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
terrifying to think about, and good for your grandma that she still has, she still feels young. And my grandparents too, they don't struggle with that. They're 88.
Oh, amazing.
And they golf and still have all their their
Oh,
mind,
that's great. They're
you
still
know.
golfing and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, with her, like, I try and explain, like, the importance of, like, being active, but also
Yeah.
she's about to be 93.
Right.
So I'm like, what am I going to tell
Right.
you to help you out? Like, you've
Yeah.
definitely outlived a number of
Whatever
people.
you've been doing.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Do
so
that.
it's clear something's clearly working. But yeah, she could probably be a little bit more active, and I think
Yeah.
she's kind of starting to like forget certain things here and there, but she still lives alone, and my aunts and uncles go in and check on her and bring her things and stuff, but she's still very adamant about living on her own
Wow.
and having her
And
own
where is this?
space, and she lives in the Bronx.
The Bronx.
Yeah,
Nice,
that's where I'm
nice.
from.
Is that
So-
where she grew up?
So she grew up in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
And then she came to the United States. She came to the Bronx when she was 17.
Okay,
Wow.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Do
Puerto
you
Rico.
but you grew up in New York.
I grew up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you when did you come to LA? Remind me.
Oh, God. It's been a little bit over 5 years now.
Okay. And before that you just had lived in New York your whole life.
Yeah.
Do you miss it at all?
I do miss certain things about New York. I miss the convenience. I
Yeah.
miss being able to like hop on the train and go anywhere. I miss
Yeah.
being able to walk outside of my house and go to the corner like bodega and just
Totally.
like grab whatever real quick.
Oh yeah.
I do miss socializing. Like the way that people socialize in New York is a lot different from LA. I think mainly because of the convenience.
Yeah.
You know, you can drink and then like take the train home or like hop in a cab, go home. Whereas like here, you kind of have to drive everywhere.
Got to
So,
plan it out.
Yeah.
so people aren't really like going out in the same way, like going out
Yeah.
after work to just kind of hang. I know it does
sure.
happen, but
Right.
it's
a different thing.
Depends
Yeah.
on what part of town you live in here too, because I'm in WeHo, so it is possible for me to just pop down the street.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
like I'll take a scooter too if I'm gonna like drink a little more.
Right.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll scoot home.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's fine. Yeah.
Steer clear of Brennan, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll edit that out.
I use the bike lanes. It's fine. It's all right. I'm
well,
getting-
you're not the only
I'm
one.
not getting trashed and getting on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
scooter. Yeah. I'm not gonna injure someone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to live in New York for like 2 years.
Oh, okay.
2018 to 2020 when COVID hit. So I was in
Oh.
Harlem at East 140th.
Oh, okay.
So not too far from the Bronx.
But that must have been tough though during
Uh,
COVID.
COVID was
already-
insane in New York.
I left as soon as it hit. Like
Oh,
as
okay.
soon as the news was like, "Hey, this is serious. Everything's shutting down." My parents were like, "Hey, why don't you just drive home?" And I took my best friend Claire with me, and I didn't come back until the end of the summer. Packed up my
Okay.
shit and moved home to Kentucky permanently for a little while. at my parents' cabin. We have like a place at
Oh,
the
nice.
lake. Yeah. And it
That
was
must have been nice.
it was amazing. Yeah. It was like the best
skiing
year of my
around.
life. Just jet skiing.
not the
just
best
boating.
year of your life.
Yeah.
Everyone
No, it was
else is
great.
miserable. He's like, I'm
Oh,
living
it was
it
a
up.
full-on existential crisis with tears.
Okay.
But in nature and like
Yeah.
just I took really good care of myself. I would get fucked up more than I do now, but I
I think everyone did.
balanced
Yeah.
it out with a lot of exercise and prepping my food all the time. So it was
that's
a
good.
good balance,
Mollying your way through COVID.
Just
I feel like
Just-
everyone was. I mean, I think that's probably the most I've ever. Maybe the most I've ever drank.
Yeah.
And within
Yeah.
like a 1.5 year span, I was drinking every single night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was smoking so much weed.
Oh, yeah.
Like so much. Not an amount that it eventually came around to where it just like cooked me up. And I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta quit smoking weed. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
like got too far.
got to
Yeah.
take breaks. Yeah.
I feel like anything you do in excess, you kind of reach a point where you're just like, okay,
Your body will
it's
be
either
like-
it's either I stop entirely or I'm just gonna become like a vegetable.
Truly.
You know?
Yeah, your body starts to give you warning signs that's like, hey, this ain't working.
Yeah.
This ain't
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, but I feel like it's like that with anything. Like if I
is.
had like oatmeal every single day for, 3 years straight.
Yeah.
At some point I feel like my guts would just be like, no, we've had enough.
100%. That's what's so crazy to me about people that just like eat fast food all the time or just like eat super shitty.
Yeah.
I'm just like, your body is in so much discomfort or like just drinking a ton and like
Yeah.
being in that cycle. It's like, I don't know how people can do that because like it's just
Yeah.
like so painful.
I feel like that's where awareness kind of comes into play because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are not really aware of
Yeah.
like what they're feeling and
That
what
is true.
their body is doing.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people obviously self-medicate with like a number of things because the world
Hello.
and society
Smoking
is
tons
crazy.
of weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to, another really good book
Tell
Here.
us.
that I'm reading right now is by Dr. Gabor Mate. Are
Okay.
you guys familiar with him?
Yeah.
I think so.
And the book is called The Myth of Normal. And he talks about how it's society really that's abnormal and people's way of coping with society is the normal reaction to the abnormal nature of society. And so it's just kind of like a different way of looking at addiction and a different way of looking at coping mechanisms because society is, I don't know if I could curse on here. Society, okay,
absolutely.
society's
This is a
fucked up.
explicit podcast.
Okay, great.
We talk about all kinds of stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Society is fucked up, and so people are trying to do the best that they can, and sometimes that looks like, overeating or,
Yeah.
turning to drugs and things
Yeah.
like that. And then you also have like the added thing of like, the class system and what people are able to afford and
Totally.
Sure.
have access to, etc.
Yeah.
But it's another really good book. I'm in
That
the
does
middle
sound
of it right now. It's a little intense.
Yeah.
Love intense.
I have to kind of like take breaks because
Okay.
after a chapter, I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
yep,
Gotta-
that makes sense. It's a
gotta
lot, but it
absorb
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good book.
That
How
does
do
sound good.
you seem to really care a lot about mental health and stuff. I know that's like something you talked a little
I
bit about
do.
before we started, and like how is it like being on tour and being away from maybe home a lot? We should probably maybe just preface this by like Adele, background singer, done this for a long time. I know amongst other things, an artist in your own right, but also away from home a lot, right? Because you've been in Vegas for a number of years with
Yeah.
Adele, and
I would say that my interest in mental health has been a more recent thing
Yeah.
for me, probably in like the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, I've always been a big advocate of like therapy and all of that, but I didn't really start diving into it until I started kind of exploring it for myself. And started to discover certain things about myself and how I was coping to get through certain life experiences, and even just coping to deal with like past experiences that were cropping up. And so
That honestly could be almost the majority
yeah,
of issues that we deal with. It's
Yeah.
like what happens, the things that trigger it in, current life, it usually has
it's
roots
unresolved childhood stuff.
from
almost
goes
all
back.
of it
Yes, all goes
is
back.
from childhood,
It
basically.
all goes back. Yeah. Straight
And
up.
we're just spending our entire lives
Yeah.
trying to clean that up.
Literally.
But yeah, so I have an amazing therapist who over the past few years has really helped me help myself try and navigate all of that stuff. And I think learning about that has really helped me to just be more aware of myself and more aware of the stuff that I'm dealing with. And by way of working on those things, it's made me increasingly aware of like everyone else.
Totally.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
And everyone else is like just the things that kind of like pop up and I'm like, oh, I see way more now.
It's so true. It's so true.
Do you ever see like a I mean, this happens all the time. You see someone who maybe you think to yourself like, man, they would really benefit from therapy.
Oh
Or
my
like,
God, all the
and
time.
you're just like, oh man, buddy,
All
like,
the
let's
time.
get you there.
And
but,
not in like
yeah.
a judgmental way,
Right.
but
No,
just
you're
more
just
so of
aware
just like,
now.
oh my God, like I was there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. I understand.
People getting wrapped up on the sometimes just most tiny things or
Yeah.
like things that you can see past for them, but they aren't there yet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, we all go through it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
somebody else might look at me and go, oh, well, he's not there yet, or with
Right.
this, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. I find it really helpful for me, especially over the past few years. I was doing the Adele residency in Vegas, and having my weekly therapy sessions. I mean, I want to say that my experience with therapy saved my life, in a number of ways. But yeah, I don't know who I would be now if I didn't have the opportunity to, to kind of work through that stuff in a safe space.
Yeah. Was there, because I know I asked because I have my own sort of relationship to this idea too. Was there a life thing that happened that sent you on that journey, or is it mostly out of just being curious and wanting to sort of slowly onsetting?
I mean, I've kind of been on and off with therapists. I mean, the very first time I spoke with a therapist was when I was like a young kid. My mom used to be a social worker, and so believed in, being able to have those kinds of spaces to talk to someone and talk through things. So on and off for, my whole life, I've kind of had various experiences with therapists. This one particular therapist, there was kind of like a personal life thing that was the impetus for me, like seeking her out.
Yeah.
And then once I found her, I was like, oh, I'm holding on to her forever.
Yeah.
Mainly because like I was looking for like a Black female
Right.
therapist, which is very, very difficult to find. And someone who, is accredited in the way that
It's the
she is.
least represented, I believe, in the therapy world, from what
Yeah.
I can remember.
My
It's-
psychiatrist is a Black woman.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Amazing.
got me
I
on
mean,
the list,
I
bro.
was searching
Hell
for
yeah.
her for a minute.
Yeah.
So there were a number of reasons why
Yeah.
I decided to seek her out, but yeah, she's been great.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's really, it can be hard to find the right match for people too. Like I
Yeah.
started with BetterHelp a couple years ago, and she was lovely, but I was like, I think I need like a gay white man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you kind of want somebody that's been through your experience, walked in
Exactly.
your skin, you know, that sort of thing.
And you don't have to explain as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that was
Yeah.
one of the things that I found, because I did see a number of people
Yeah.
actually via BetterHelp, and I actually
Yeah.
ended up finding her off of it. But I just found that there were so many things that I didn't even have to explain, that she just
Yeah.
instantly got when I was describing experiences
Yes.
and even just my own thoughts about things. She was just like, oh yeah, I get it.
Come to think of it, when I went through rehab years ago for meth, my therapist was a black woman, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm just recalling that.
Oh,
So
okay, amazing. So
shout out-
they're
shout
out
out
there.
Savea. Yeah, she was amazing. Yeah. I was a different person then, though. I was like 24. So,
Oh, okay.
like, so long ago.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's also what's so crazy about the mental health journey is it's like a big process of just figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just uncovering what makes us us.
Yeah.
And it's just so because I had my own sort of a couple years, or within the last couple years, real mental struggle, and that could go into much more of that, but in short, basically was going through like a type of identity crisis, and I got into therapy and I have learned so much about myself in that process. And I always, like, my mom was very emotionally intelligent, and so I always, like, I grew up around a lot of that, and
That's great.
yeah, it was really great. I mean, my mom, love my mom. She's the best, and thought I was really self-aware, which I was to a degree, but getting into therapy and getting further under the hood, it's like,
You realize.
how did I miss so much of this stuff that
Yeah.
was right in front of my face?
Same.
It's crazy.
Same.
And I also am now sort of the mind that's probably gonna continue forever. Like
Yeah.
for the rest of my life, I'm going to be learning more about myself,
Yeah.
and that things will change over the course of time, and bigger life events and big shifts, and it's so crazy. But this also ties back into, older people and them just thinking they're still young. A lot of times, people don't ever go through these discoveries and do just stay the same person for decades.
I would say that, I mean, the generations that have come before, it's rarer, especially I think within like the Black and Latino community, which is the community I'm a part of. It's rarer to have, one, the opportunity, and two, the time, and three, the financial support
Right.
Totally.
in order to go and seek out a therapist and then see a therapist consistently. There's
Yeah.
also like, a bit of a stigma
That's
attached.
just about to say stigma.
Yeah,
and
there's
stuff.
stigma attached to like, the whole idea of just like, I'm not telling people my personal business. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, I don't know this person.
Yeah.
And that goes outside, I mean, for your community as well, but also just like hetero men too, in general too. Both of those demographics I feel like are the least likely to seek the therapy, you
Yeah.
know, because of different reasons, but
Yeah.
stigma being one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they the ones who needed them. But
Yeah.
no, so I would say that like it's so great to have
Yeah.
conversations with people, that are part of our generation who are more open to it.
Yeah.
And who are actively seeking it out and also have the opportunity to, because I view it definitely as a privilege to be able to
Oh, 100%,
to have a
100%.
therapist.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so I think hopefully as time goes on, it becomes more accessible. I think especially like within the music community too, there's also a stigma, I think, attached to the idea of like talking to people about your business and also that music is a therapy, and I don't need a therapist because I'm working through my stuff through my art. And I think that is valid, but also like how cool would it be to have a support system for artists and creatives so that they can put all of that energy and time into their art, but also that they have another resource where they feel supported and they feel like they can turn to in order to like express themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost a form of self-medicating.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that's a dicey territory.
Yeah.
Where it's like just through your own dysfunctional patterns that we all can develop to cope. It's not always, and honestly, probably most of the time, not necessarily the healthiest means.
You mean like turning to art in order to
like just
process-
just being like music is my therapy, and which obviously just like any sort of coping mechanism, there is value to that, but it's also you're isolated in your sort of therapy, and I'm a firm believer in specialized study and therapists, the therapy industry, the psychiatry industry, that's and continuing to be a tried, tested, and true sort of means of getting help, like from professionals, versus isolating in our own sort of worlds and just being like, oh yeah, I've tried this and this is what works for me. Of course, there could be value to that. I'm not saying that at all. Like exercise and creating and all of these things, but having a professional outlet to help us mentally, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would agree with that to a degree. I feel like there's more than one way to crack an egg.
For sure.
And I feel like for some people, I know people that have had terrible experiences in therapy because they've just come across individuals that are not good at what they do.
Yeah.
Or not experienced enough.
Totally.
And then it kind of puts those people off to having a therapeutic experience.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid and you have a shitty piano teacher and piano's ruined forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I do think that art can be a form of therapy. I just think that in terms of maybe understanding like some patterns and some like deeper things, it can be helpful to have someone else there who's experienced, who is well versed in that world, to kind of just like give you a little bit of extra advice, or just kind of help guide, or even just help you like judge yourself less, or judge others less, or what have you.
Because that is, speaking from my own experience, it's like music has always, through therapy, I realized I don't have, full on OCD, but I have very obsessive compulsive tendencies.
Yeah.
And music has been a healthy means of exercising that part of myself. But where it gets dysfunctional and where it gets too far is like how much of your identity is getting caught up in that.
Right.
And because then when things go wrong, then it almost can make things worse because you're so compromised with the reliance of these sort of stories that we've told ourselves. It's like I'm great because I'm a great musician. Well, it's like, well, no, you're great because you're a great person, and you're worthy because you are a worthy person, and you happen to be good at music. And that's where it's like having the healthy sort of framework mentally is where you can I think things can get dicey if not monitored effectively, and that's what therapy really, that's one of the things that really helped me realize.
100%. Because I do think that is also like a big part of the music business, you know? It's just sort of your identity is tied up in your music because of the way that just the business works, because of the nature of celebrity, because of how curious people are about your personal life and what you do and who you are. And so your identity just does kind of get tied up in it. And it's important, I think, for creatives to be able to go and like, no, this is my music. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is something that I've created. This is not who I am.
Exactly.
And you love the music or you hate the music, but you don't love or hate me because you don't know me.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, so that's
100%.
really important. I feel like that is a dicey, it's dicey ground in the music world, because I do think that a lot of people do identify with their art in that way.
Oh, and it hasn't been, I feel like it's being discussed more in recent times, but you never hear people talk about this idea. Like it's of separating your self-worth and your identity from what you do.
Yeah.
It's really important, because whenever something, and it's going to inevitably, it's just the part of doing anything, things are going to go bad at some point and in some degree. And if you have your self-worth and identity and all that caught up in that, it's going to hit you really hard.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to sort of get back on the horse and pull it together. But that's where therapy and for me, getting on Lexapro and these additional means of help is so crucial.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I'm trying to do less of is the whole kind of like thinking of things in terms of good and bad, like thinking of my creativity in terms of good and bad, because really, like, we're all creators. We all, like, even if it's just a matter of, like, I'm going to put the sofa here in this room
100%.
and I'm going to put the piano here and, like, yeah, like, that feels good.
Yeah.
I think that looking at those experiences in terms of good and bad, like, obviously, like, you know, there are levels to success in the music world, like, you know, how much you're getting booked and visibility and checks and all of that stuff. But I think in terms of the actual creativity, and this is something that, like, I've only really started to, I think, kind of just drill into my own brain, is that I am creating something. It's, for me, I'm willing to share it with everyone because I'm willing to share it with everyone. But at the end of the day, like, it's not good or bad. It's just like this one thing that I've created that I'm putting out into the world, and bam, like, that's it.
Yeah.
Whether 3 people listen to it or like 100,000 people listen to it, that's just its own
It's a different
reality.
thing.
It's its own thing.
Yeah.
But am I a creator, and what does that look like, and what does that mean to me? I think that I am. And so just to be able to create and have the space to sort of talk about my experience in the same way that, like, we are on this podcast, you know, like, this is its own sort of creative world. And I'm trying to look at things more, because I'm very much a sort of black and white person. It's just like, this is good, this is bad, this is success, this is not. And I think I'm trying to look at being a creative more from that space, and to judge less, judge the product. I'm already doing it. Judge, like, what it is that I create less,
Yeah.
and just make stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
That has been a
100%.
release of mine lately, and I've written some of the greatest stuff that I've ever written.
Yeah.
It's because I've thought about a lot of this, and I agree 1,000,000% and have had my own sort of journey with it. It's shifting it's almost shifting the goal, and instead of the goal being the result, the goal is fulfillment through the process.
Yeah.
And just doing it.
Yeah.
And being immersed in the activity of doing versus the end goal, or this is where it'll be validated when it gets X amount of things or whatever, instead of that being the focus, it's just having the consistency and flow of just being immersed in creating.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, things inevitably happen.
Yeah.
And some things don't go great, and then other things go great, and that's just what this life and journey is.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that way whether you're focused on the end goal or not. It's all going to turn into what it's going to turn into. There's so many things that are out of our control. And so, and you do the best with all of it, and it's obviously good to have goals. We were talking with another one of our friends on here. He's like, he's letting go of the idea of expectation.
Oh yeah. That's
Ties into this.
That's a big one.
Yeah, ties into this. And he's like, oh no, when people are like, you not have goals, and they'll look at him crazy. He's like, no, I have goals, but I don't, I'm not so caught up in whether they happen or not. If they happen, great.
Yeah.
If they don't, whatever.
Well, because the goal, by way of having a goal, you're already sort of going like, well, I'm missing something. So I need this thing.
Totally.
I need to reach for this thing in order to get the thing that I'm missing.
100%.
And what I've realized is that I've kind of been doing that my whole life. I think I've been quite successful in pursuing the things that, I felt like I needed to pursue in order to become successful. As a background vocalist, I'm like, all right, I need to do this. I need to sing for this person. I need to sing for this person. I need to get paid this much.
Yeah.
And then I realized I'm like, all right, well, I did all those things, and what do they mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do all those things mean? Yeah, I'm successful. Yeah, I might have people that look at me and go like, oh my God, like, how did you accomplish those things? I want those things. But for me, I think I'm at a point where I'm just like, what do I want my life to look like? Like, when I'm done, what do I want to say about the experiences that I've had? What do I want to say about, like, where I've been and who I've met and what I've done? And I realize that a lot of that has to do more so with, like, community, and has more so to do with, like, just sort of, like, making memories as opposed to, like, ticking off boxes.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in that, like, creative space now, and that to some people might mean that, like, all right, well, you're not going to be as successful in terms of, like, the money that you make. And I just go like, well, you don't know. Like, I could be, or I might not.
Yeah.
Also, making money at doing what we like to do is success.
Exactly.
I said this on the last pod. It's like, my grandparents, bless them, they mean well, but they're always, my grandmother especially would always be like, well, one day you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have.
No, my grandmother she says something similar all the time.
And they don't. She doesn't mean. She means zero harm by it. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
This is making it.
Yeah.
This is making it, and I've had to convince myself that that's okay to feel that way too.
Yes.
Because like any artist, like any young creator, like any creator of any age that feels like, oh, I'm too old for this, or I'm not good enough, or whatever. It's like, are you earning a living, making it? That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
And that's not to, like, downplay the people that are going like, I want to play in arenas and I want to play for 100,000 people.
Yeah,
and that's amazing and that's fine. I'm more so just talking about me and my own personal experience. It's just that, like, my way of looking at creativity and even just goals in general has shifted.
Yeah.
And it's more about what my experiences are.
Yeah.
And I feel like that has just really opened me up to being more creative.
It's nice to turn down gigs sometimes too. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like fun. You know? Like, am I going to have a good time at this gig or that? Or, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's its own.
Yeah.
That's its own beast.
It's okay to say no to what. Okay, so talk about the Adele experience. I mean, I'm sure you've probably talked about this before on other podcast. I know you said you've done some podcasts before, but I'd love to know too, just because we haven't really spoke that much about it. But
I mean, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I've been working with her for a long time.
Yeah.
How did it
How
all
did that
come
come
about?
about?
Sort of originally.
You know what? I used to sing at this club called the Village Underground in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
We know well.
I played with a good friend of mine. His name is Derek Wright. It just kind of so happened that he had been playing with her for a few years prior to, and they were looking for a background vocalist, and he, recommended me and asked me if it would be something I'd be interested in, and I was like, yeah. And she wasn't really as, she had success, but she was doing the promo for 21.
Okay. So what year
So-
would that have been around? Like
it's a while ago.
God, 2000
early 2010s or
9 or 10,
Wow.
I think.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've been working with her on and off for a while.
Wild.
It's great. It's great. She's so talented.
She is
Seems like a
awesome
pretty
as
cool
she,
gal.
She's
Yeah.
very down to earth.
Yeah.
She's very much like herself, which
Nice.
is like what you want working
Yeah.
with someone. You just want people to be them.
Yeah.
Because then you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When there's like a facade, then you're just like, you
Yeah.
feel like you're kind of like playing dodgeball a little bit.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
So yeah, she's just very much herself, and obviously incredibly successful, and the people that I've been playing with in the band, I've now been working with for years now, so it definitely feels like a family. So yeah, it was great. We did a Vegas residency. We were working on it for a total of like 3 years, but the actual residency was for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
So
was
you
great.
had a year leading up to it that you were working on it. So.
Yeah, because we originally were going to play, and then it was
That's right.
postponed.
Yeah.
So
COVID, right? She shut it
there
down.
were a lot
Yeah,
of things
yeah.
involved, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we it was postponed, and then about a year later, I think it was a little under a year, but yeah, about a year later we we opened. And it was great. It was my first time actually being on a gig where I was kind of stationed in one place, because I've been touring since, my early 20s. So
Yeah.
it was my first gig where I was able to like kind of go back, be home every week.
Yeah.
Which
I
was
remember you were
nice.
kind of commuting, right?
Yeah, so the shows were on the weekend, so
Great.
I was just kind of going to work for the weekend, and then I was able to come back home, and
So
it
you
was
go,
nice.
Like on Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday, and then come back Sunday.
Okay, nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so would you stay in the same
Stayed in
place, like
Vegas.
in the hotel?
Yeah,
Or, okay.
stayed in Vegas.
Cool.
How do you like Vegas?
How do I like Vegas? You know what? It's very interesting because there's a little pocket of Vegas like outside of the strip.
Yeah.
That's what
That's-
people say is like
That's
the,
more chill and fun. Like I enjoy the arts district,
Yeah.
and so that part of Vegas I enjoy. I'm not really a huge fan of hanging out on the strip. To
Yeah,
be
yeah.
honest, it's not for me.
for sure.
It's because people are. It's a very transient city.
Yeah.
You have people coming in pretty much every week.
Conferences,
Totally.
Weddings.
Yeah,
all
people
the
are coming
things.
in every week for all of that stuff, or just to kind of like party or
Yeah.
gamble. So you have that energy happening every week, and while it's great for business, it's not really great for like your mental health. Like you don't
Yeah,
really want to
for
hang
sure.
out.
For sure.
You see like just everyone's drunk all the time.
There's a vibe that
Yeah,
comes
everyone's
with
drunk
that.
all the time, and then when you're working, I'm sort of like in a completely different headspace from that. I'm not there to hang out. I'm there
Totally.
to work. So then when you're kind of interacting with people that are like drunk or partying, and then you have like the casino element where people are still able to like smoke inside the
Yeah,
casinos, and like so that's not fun as a singer having
No,
to like
no.
navigate that.
We went recently for a wedding and had a good time. The Sphere.
Oh, this.
Oh,
did
yeah.
you go to the
God.
I
Sphere?
mean, like if you're popping in and out, like
Yeah.
I say, like I enjoy Vegas when I'm there for like 2 to 3 days and then I leave.
Yeah.
That was kind of.
That was
But when
Yeah.
you're doing that every week, then it can kind of feel like a lot.
Well,
Now,
even
I would say that like the audiences, like the actual shows, that was a completely different thing because obviously those were beautiful and the people that came to support the shows are so lovely.
Oh yeah,
like,
Oh yeah.
I'm sure her fans are great.
that's its
Yeah.
own thing.
Yeah.
I'm more so talking about just like kind of being in Vegas.
Yeah.
The town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even by
It
the
can
end
be a
of
sad
that-
place.
Oh,
yeah.
I was about
Yeah.
even by the end of that 3 or 4 days we
We
were
were like,
there. I
You're
was
ready
like,
to go.
Get me
Yeah.
the fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. By the end, you're just like, okay, like this, we can only really do this for
We
like
did
2
Molly
days.
at our best friend's wedding though, and it was a blast.
it was
Oh,
fun.
fun.
It was fun. I am not a gambler.
Yeah.
I do not.
See,
get,
I'm not a gambler
I
either.
am.
Oh, you are.
I enjoy it. Yeah,
I don't
when
get the
go.
gambling high. I get the opposite. I like.
Tell her.
You start
Okay.
panicking,
Well, it's just like you lose $50 in like 30 seconds,
Yeah.
and it's like
and then you're
this
like,
isn't fun.
No, see, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's like,
fun
I'm
when you
like,
win,
wait a
though.
minute, where did my money go?
Yeah,
and
like-
why am I giving it away for free?
Exactly. But this was actually pretty awesome. So, like I said, I'm not a gambler. Never done a slot in my life. Brennan is a slot guy.
You won like $3,000 or something, didn't
Not
you?
$3,000. That would be awesome. But I was watching Brennan. He was going around doing his thing. Everybody, you're in 30 seconds, you're out $50. I was like, okay, let me just I was like, I'll go with like $200. And if I
Yeah.
lose that $200, whatever. But I'll give it a go. And so I'm watching, observing. And then I was like, okay, after a bit, I'll try one of these. Put in. It was I forget how much I
$100.
put in, but I did one $3 spin, got 777s and won $300.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm done.
Beginner's luck.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm cashing out.
Somehow
I
they-
just
somehow they know.
maximize.
It's
That
like-
never,
Yeah.
ever happens to me.
Yeah.
I always lose. And that's probably another reason why I'm just like, I can't do the gambling
Yeah.
thing. Because
Yeah.
it's just like, I'd rather take that money and like invest it in something and then make
100%.
some money off of
Yeah.
that.
100%. That's way more of a high than
Yeah.
just like, what's actually interesting about this though, I was hearing somebody on just some clip I saw the other day, and sort of they were tying it into, like kind of like this is in relation sort of some of the stuff we talked about, kind of like the fuckboy syndrome. It's like the sort of attraction to somebody that, at first,
I'm well versed.
yeah. Like gives you what you're looking for.
I'm very well versed.
Yeah. But it's the same thing with gambling. It's like, it's that luck of the draw. It's like, today, are they gonna be like how I want them to be? And
Yeah.
it's sort of that same kind of idea with like gambling. It's all maybe this hand
Mm-hmm.
I'll win. And so it's like that
Oh, yeah.
sort of game of it is how that sort of functions.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
The only difference is that mine is more related to like my relationship with my dad and my childhood experiences than
okay.
like just losing and winning money.
yeah. Yeah. A little deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
You can let him out.
Are these doggies when I go out?
Brennan. So everybody knows Rick. Brennan's 14-year-old good boy who passed, but now they are fostering
Oh
a
my
little
gosh,
1-year-old
she's so
Lily.
cute.
And her and Jupiter are already best friends. So
They are
we love it.
definitely probably keeping.
We had an interview
her.
today
It's
with the golden retriever rescue here.
Yeah.
They had a little FaceTime with us, and because I've always been a golden boy, but she came along last week helping a friend out, and
She's so
we
sweet.
love
She wants
her.
to come back
Sweet little
inside
girl.
I
already.
know, yeah. She's
I'll come
been
back in
sleeping
in a
right
second.
next to me the whole
She
time.
loves
Balled
you.
up.
Yeah.
So who else have you toured with? I mean, Adele's a big one.
Yeah, I've worked with Adele. I toured with The Killers.
Oh, nice.
That was recently, wasn't it?
That
Or-
was just before this Adele
Okay.
run.
nice.
And then before that, I was on tour with Adele again.
Okay.
And
So
then
you've been out with Adele.
on
also.
the road.
Yeah.
And then before that, I was touring with Michael Bolton.
Nice.
Yes, I remember you
Nice.
talking about
Great.
this. I love Michael Bolton.
He's amazing. He's an incredible singer. Sending him
Yes.
love and healing energy
for
wherever he
sure.
is. But I and then who was I with before Michael? I think before Michael, I was kind of like doing like sporadic gigs, going out with people. I was singing in the West Village for like a few years.
What spot?
At the Village Underground.
Oh, the Village Underground. Nice.
Yeah.
Is the Village Underground still there?
So it's still there, but it's not a music venue anymore. It's a comedy venue.
Yeah.
So it's not. Is it called the Village Underground still, or?
Yeah, it's still
Okay,
owned.
okay.
It's still
Yeah.
owned by the same people, but
Gotcha.
it's
They're just not doing
They
music.
do comedy
The
there
Comedy
now.
Cellar is connected.
It's
to
owned
them.
by
and like Fat
by
Back
Gnome,
Pussycat too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see shows like all three of those.
Yeah. So they do comedy there now, but before that, there was live music.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a few years, and that's kind of where I would say like I cut a lot of my live music chops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Singing down there because we were just singing for like hours every night, and
Do you know
it was
Vin
loud.
Landolfi?
Who?
Vin Landolfi, guitar player. I know he played it. He's in New York. I know he played the Village Underground a lot, but maybe it was different times. You would know him. He's fucking dope, and he's like an amazing person.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Shout
I mean,
out, Vin.
if I saw a photo, maybe I'm
Yeah.
terrible with names.
No, same. I like. I don't even know if I could count how many times I'm like, I'm going to get better at names, and I'll meet somebody, and I'm like, I'm going to remember
Yeah.
their name.
I've
and
been
it just
trying.
doesn't
I
happen.
really have been trying. I kind of have to say their name
Yeah.
over, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
almost like I can't concentrate on anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to remember their names. And then I'm like, if you're in a situation where you're like meeting tons of people,
Yeah.
then it's just like you're not even really present for the conversation because
So
you're
true.
like Sarah,
It's tough.
Sarah,
Yeah.
Sarah,
Tough.
Sarah, Sarah,
Let's go into a
Tom,
trance.
Tom.
It's tough. I keep notes in my
true.
phone from when I met
that's
people
That's smart.
sometimes, or
Yeah.
like I'll have Amanda singer, LA,
yeah,
all of that.
definitely.
But then I will sometimes make notes too in the notes section.
I
and
do
be
that
like,
too.
Yeah,
That's probably
We met
the
at this
OCD,
gig,
the
yeah.
OCD in all three of us.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have obsessive compulsive?
I would say that I am undiagnosed.
Yeah.
But yes, I would say
Yeah.
if you ask my therapist, there's definitely like a neurotic thing.
Yeah.
There.
I feel like it's doing music. There can easily be some Venn diagram sort of
I
happening.
mean, I think that like it's less to do with like music. I feel like music was definitely like a coping mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
and more to do with just like the dynamic at home when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there were some elements that probably created some anxiety, and as a way to sort of navigate that,
Yeah.
I kind of turned to this sort of like more compulsive behavior in order to feel safe, or in order to feel like I was in control.
Means of control, 100%.
So, I mean, I'm sure there were like a million reasons why it developed, but
Mm-hmm. yeah. All
I-
goes back to then, though.
yeah,
Those
I
early
would say
days.
that I'm way more aware of it now, so I'm able to kind of like sort of talk myself through the behaviors and
Mm-hmm.
just go like, is this something that we want to like overthink? Is this
Yeah.
something that we want to spend this much time on?
For sure.
Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm able to sort of kind of like talk myself out of it sometimes. And then other times I'm just completely unaware of it. And then I catch myself and I'm like, all right, well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's hard to, because for a while there, I was like, I want to get rid of this part of myself. But then eventually I realized it's like, that's part of who I am.
Yes.
It's not it's not just going to go away. It's
Yeah.
how do I manage that and sort of make that work for me? And
Yeah.
how do I manage it to where it takes the sting out of things? And so it's less about like eradicating and more just, almost leaning into it and being curious about it and
Yeah.
being aware of it. like
Yeah,
you're
that's
saying.
what I mean. It's more like the curiosity and the awareness that I feel I have learned to I've learned to just kind of know when it's happening, and then also I get to decide, what I want to do with that, as
Yeah.
opposed to sort of like allowing this behavior
It
to
running the
overwhelm me
ship.
to the point where I don't have any control.
Yeah.
So I think the awareness has allowed for me to have less anxiety and to be more sort of calm dealing with those kinds of behaviors, and less like, all right, well, I find myself kind of overwhelmed and these behaviors are taking over and I don't have any say.
Yeah.
So I know it's going to be there forever, but I would say that the awareness has somehow allowed me to be a little bit less kind of neurotic and anxious in those like times where those behaviors crop up.
Yeah, 100%. It's hard to be able to regulate something if you don't
No, it's happening.
see it.
Yeah.
If you aren't aware of its presence.
And I would say for a long time, I did not know. I was
Same.
like, I am fine. I am calm. And then I was just like, oh, no, girl, you are not.
Yeah.
You are not calm.
Same. I mean, that's like getting into therapy. That was one of those things that I discovered about myself. It's like, oh no, like you are like have so much of these things
Yeah.
that have been steering the ship in a lot of ways and reacting to it versus
Yeah.
sort of working with it, and I'm trying to think of the right phrase, but kind of expecting it, like just and then it's like the anxiety happens and it all kicks up, and it's like, how do I rein this in? I'm freaking out too hard,
Yeah.
and then it's hard. So, but if you're a step ahead of it, it's there. It's like, okay, there's that fucking thing again.
Yeah, and knowing that like that thing comes from somewhere. I think the
Exactly.
fact that I have done some of that work and I know it's just like, all right, well, you do this thing because of this thing that happened, and that's a part of who you are.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that thing, then you wouldn't be you.
Exactly.
So like it's about just sort of like accepting all of the different facets of yourself, and
Yeah.
also like society has us believing that like we have to be a certain way.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
all of that is like just a bunch of like bullshit. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's
Such
all it's
bullshit.
literally all made up.
Yeah.
all
And
constructs.
we don't have to be any way other than like the way that we are or the way that we want to be.
Yeah.
So really, it just comes down to like, okay, what is it? Who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things that like I maybe might want to like shift a little bit? Is
Mm-hmm.
it just having more awareness so that I can make a decision?
Mm-hmm.
Great. What does that look like? How do I do it? And also not beating myself up in the moments when like I don't have as much awareness or control, and just
Yeah.
going like, all right, that was the day we had. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah,
You know?
there's gonna be bad days.
Yes.
Like that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And we did this like birth class all weekend. That was like super epic.
Yeah, you guys are gearing up for a
got a little-
human.
We got a little bambino on the way. Yeah, it's a big year. It's a big year. And one of the things that we were kind of talking about in this class was some days you feel like you can conquer it all and you're just kicking ass and you're ruling, and then there's other days that just feel like if just going to a yoga class is all you can manage,
Exactly.
like that's
Great.
fine too. It's
Yep.
like every and then there's gonna be another day, and they cycle. It's cyclical, and when there's shit days, that's fine. You
Yeah.
don't have to save the world on a shit
Yeah.
day. And
I feel like that phrase, like comparison is the thief of joy, is
Yeah.
really sort of like the impetus for those feelings of like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because you're always thinking about like, well, this person is able to accomplish this in one day, and then if I don't accomplish this, then I might not get
Then
to this
you're-
point.
yeah.
And it's like, well, really, we're all thinking and feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And when you're pushing through those feelings to the point where you're not actually feeling them and you're just achieving, then it's just like, that's not the kind of person that I want to be.
And that's also dangerous territory because, at least my experience with achievement, it's never how you think it's going to feel when it happens. It's honestly super fleeting. It's not a sustainable fulfillment. Yeah. And because just the goalposts keep moving, and I can have a tendency to, downplay things that happen. And so there is obviously, it's important to recognize things that you've done and things that you have accomplished. But that's a dicey metric for validation and self-worth and being enough, because that's what all of that also comes down to, is like, am I doing enough? Am I enough?
Yeah.
Am I?
And that's, I think, a big thing that plagues a lot of creatives, because
For sure.
I think a lot of people also get into that world because they don't feel like they're enough, or they never received that emotional support and or that validation. And so then the validation that they get from complete strangers as a result of the art that they create almost becomes like a substitute, and then like a drug. It's just like, well, if I'm not getting that validation, then am I good? Am I important? Am I making a valid contribution?
Yeah.
And that is capitalism at work as well.
Exactly.
Because if we're not earning every day, or we're not going to work like a regular 9-to-5, or you start to get into these can go off in these little tangents. Well, I'm just working on my little album, or I'm not,
It's the societal programming.
I was in a deep depression for the last couple of years of just that very thing. Just I'm not achieving enough. I'm not accomplishing enough. And it's after I got on Lexapro and reframed things, I'm like, yeah, the fuck I am.
Yeah.
I should be glad that I have all the free time. Most people would kill for that.
Yeah.
I get to enjoy it. I get to sleep in
now.
every day.
And you get to enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting until you're 55, 60.
Yeah.
I saw a friend say something the other day on the internet. It was really simple, but it really hit me. He's like, do what you want to do today, because it is an absolute fact. There's a day that you aren't going to be able to.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And that really hit me. I was like, that's some real ass shit. But so it's like, dude, fuck what society says, and
make the thing.
This is your life.
Go to the place.
Yeah. Talk
to the people.
Yeah.
Spend the time. Because really, we have no say over what is going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
100%. We've been living our lives for so long, so we have this expectation that it's going to be fine. But it's just we really don't know for sure that it will be. So why not do the thing today that you want to do?
Exactly.
And if that's literally hang out in your pajamas and binge watch your favorite TV show and order in pizza, and that's how you want to spend your last day, then do that.
Straight up.
What's your favorite TV show right now? Are you watching anything?
So I have been trying to chill on the TV.
Yeah.
Are you typically a big show person?
I used to be a very, very big, I still am a big show person.
Yeah.
I do enjoy, I enjoy great acting.
Oh, yeah.
So, if there are certain actors in a television show or in a film, I just watched Angelina Jolie playing, Maria Callas. And I thought she was great.
Is this the one that she's singing in?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen little
where
clips
I
about
was just
that.
wait a minute, is she singing?
Yeah. Is she?
Because there were a couple scenes where I was just even though it wasn't excellent, it still sounded like whoever was the voice could sing.
Yeah.
So I was very blown away. And then also, I've just always been a huge fan of hers. I just think she's great. I think she's a great actress. I think she always picks these very interesting roles. So I loved that. If you haven't seen it,
Yeah, I
I
haven't
highly
seen it.
recommend
Yeah,
it.
I have to watch that.
And then I would say the only other show that I actually just finished is this show called The Agency.
Okay, I was
that's
Aaron just
familiar.
started that. He's told me to get on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like very anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
So I was telling my girlfriend last night, I was like, I am not watching season 2 of this.
Yeah.
Because I just found myself like, I was like, I
caught
don't
up.
need any more anxiety in my life. And I know that makes for great TV, but I can't. I'm
too
way
much.
too aware of it now. And so I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't deal with it. But it was good. I mean, I love Michael Fassbender, I think. And just the entire cast is excellent. It's very well cast. It's very well written. So.
We just saw the other day the new Keke Palmer movie.
Oh,
One of the days.
I'm going to see that.
When
I'm
are you
going to
going?
see that with a girlfriend. I'm going to see that with Jesse, actually. I think.
It is phenomenal.
Nice.
It is so good. It's the funniest shit I've seen in a long time. Like, it's
Yeah.
just
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's Keke Palmer and SZA.
Oh no,
And-
Vanessa.
It's produced by, Issa
Yeah,
Rae.
she's really
She liked
good.
it.
Like super like sort of like buddy comedy,
Yeah, it looks
sort of
funny.
thing. Like Fridays basically is what it was
Yeah.
sort of, that
okay.
feel, like a classic
Yeah.
buddy comedy.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to
And
it.
the men,
Oh, really?
I would go back just for that. Holy moly, the men in that film.
Are there any like household name?
No.
Okay, just.
Oh, okay.
But they can come to my house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward
you're
to
gonna,
it.
You're gonna see. Text me when you watch it. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been. Vanessa loves true crime.
Yeah.
And some of these shows will just like fly under the radar for me. And
Yeah.
We watched. Well, there's a couple. There's one we're watching right now. I'll think of the name in a second. But we watched the other day, Abducted in Plain Sight.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
I can't do the true crime.
Yeah.
Not into it.
It's not that I'm not into it.
It's a
Too
lot.
intense.
It's just too intense for me.
It's a lot.
It is
Yeah.
intense. Well, that's the thing with this Abducted in Plain Sight. I'm like getting like worked up
Now you're
Yeah.
a dad.
watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
did you see it?
Yeah.
Like the parents, I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
wrong with
It's
you
always the
fucking-
parents. Like, what were you thinking?
But it's like real, right? It's based on
Oh,
real.
Yeah.
it's real. No, it's like a
guy
documentary.
next door,
basically.
neighbor, like just
Yeah,
like,
see, I-
molest the kid.
I can't.
Yeah, it's like infuriating.
I can't. I feel like life, maybe like if life shifts
Yeah.
and like becomes a little bit more chill and like less stressful, then
There's a lot
I
happening out
can
there.
watch that stuff.
Yeah.
But I just like, I finished The Agency and I was just like, oh my God, like,
Gotta take a break.
this is probably what they're
Yeah.
actually doing. And it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like madness or government, etc. And I'm just like, I can't.
Yeah.
I need to like watch
Arm's
like
length.
rom-coms or
Yeah.
like, baking television
Yeah.
shows. Or like Queer Eye. I need
Yeah.
to like cry at the end and feel like happy for the
Yeah.
people in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this other one that we're watching, oh fuck. It's a series. It's about this dude who is an author who his wife died by falling down. Well, she died
Staircase.
Oh, the staircase.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I
Yeah.
did see it, yeah.
Well, don't tell me what happens.
Yeah.
Because we're 2 episodes in. Vanessa's already watched it.
Yeah.
But we're watching that right now.
It's
So
it's a doozy.
It's definitely a doozy.
yeah.
it's
Yeah. That dude is nuts. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I don't
Yeah.
know what happens, but I do know that
Yeah.
dude is fucking off his rocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what is the case with all
Yeah.
of these shows and situations. It's like mentally normal people generally don't find themselves in those situations.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you got to be off your rocker.
Wife doesn't generally whack herself down the steps.
Something else
Yeah.
has happened if
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what
Crazy
we've been
stuff.
watching. True crime.
I just like, I don't know. I just feel like life is so intense.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't want to like I don't want to watch this story about this woman that got, murdered or
Brutally
by
murdered.
this child that
Yeah.
or this child that was locked in their closet for 5 years
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
you know what I mean?
It's a lot.
I can't. But I do know people that are like I have a friend that's all she watches. She's like obsessed with all the true crime stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, more power to you. It's just like I can't. I just think my nervous system can't handle it.
It's
And
a
I
lot.
used to be like gung ho, like horror. I used to love horror films. I was all about it. And then like there's just something happened for me. Something shifted, and now I'm like I feel more present when I'm watching that stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh god, this is really intense.
Too aware now.
Just
Too
yeah,
aware.
we're just sensitive little babies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've always been, and I just was not aware of it. And so I was just kind of like, almost like watching like all of these horror films and stuff to kind of like feel something.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, oh, I can't do
Yeah.
it.
Got my feel meter.
Yeah, I'm all
Tapped.
full. I'm
Yeah.
full up.
Well, I know we got to get you out of here soon, but I
Yeah.
did want to say your music that you've released recently or that I've seen recently is so
Oh.
great. So
Oh,
I wanted to
thank
talk
you.
about that a little bit. You've got new projects that you're working on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's on the
actually-
horizon?
I
Yeah.
have a single that I'm
It was
gearing up
beautiful. The whatever you've posted recently.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Dirty Liar, the
Yeah.
music for Dirty
Yes.
Liar. Thank you. Yeah, so I have another single. I'm gonna be releasing actually like a bunch of covers, but
Great.
I do have a single that I wrote with his very, very talented musician producer. His name is Dan Sadin, and it's so funny because I've been obviously in this like healing, like inquiry space, and I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
And so this one song is about sort of questioning, the innocence of children, being raised in those environments, and what is, okay and what is too much, is the concept of like
Yeah.
life and death too much when you're
Yeah.
like 5 years old. It's
Totally.
the concept of like, if you don't do this, you're going to potentially burn for all of eternity
Right.
in hell
Yeah.
at 5.
Yeah.
So the song is called Innocence. I haven't announced it yet, but
Okay.
it's coming.
Great.
But so yeah, that's kind of been where my head has been, sort of just like questioning all of these.
And we're
like,
taught not to question it.
Yeah, and I'm sure people
That's
are going to
the
have
whole key.
opinions about it because I know that, people, and this is not like knocking the church in any way. It's more just like an inquiry and trying to have a conversation about like, all right, well, yes, we can believe in God and yes, we can have community in church, but can we also talk about like how we're introducing these concepts to children and like how could we potentially be better? How could we improve? Because there's always room for improvement.
For sure. For sure.
I have a bumper sticker my buddy gave me, and I grew up in the church. I'm not a religious person anymore, but I've always questioned, things. And the sticker says, "How's my driving? How does an engine even work? Why would a loving God cause so much agony?" And that's this question to ponder.
What a leap!
It's a valid question.
Yeah. And I love that. But
Yeah.
no, that's great that
Yeah.
you have that awareness to question that. Yeah.
It's more so of just like I have been questioning everything. I
Yeah.
think about myself and also about my upbringing, and when this song came about, I was very much like in the space of like thinking about my childhood and like what it was like, and even just asking the question like if this thing had been different, how would that have affected me and
Yeah.
how would that have affected the way that I look at the world? And I've always had a very soft spot, I think, for children, because I feel like they are children and the elderly, really, because they really are like the sort of innocence amongst us. If we don't take the extra time to look after those people in our communities, and it's just like what are we doing? So yeah, that's kind of how the song came about. It was just my own personal inquiry. But yeah, that's the headspace that I've been in. So get ready for like
Can't wait to hear it.
some more
Stoked.
dark and heady stuff.
Yeah.
Love it.
And where can people find you? I know if you want people to follow you, Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on all the socials.
Amanda Lee
I'm on-
Brown, right?
It's Amanda Leah, so
Yeah.
Amanda Leah Brown, like the color,
Okay.
and I'm on all of the Facebook.
Leia
and-
is how you pronounce it.
It's Leia, like Princess Leia,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's spelled
Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah.
I'm on all the things. I'm on Blue Sky now.
Okay.
What's Blue Sky?
It's the new Facebook alternative. It's not like Nazi Germany fascism now, So
Interesting.
yeah, it's like supposed to be more like just not.
I've never even heard
Yeah,
of this.
it was created by a woman who essentially and this is what I believe her goal was with it, just to sort of have more of a community-based, community-driven
Yeah.
social platform where people are able to talk about what they want to talk about. They're able to say what they want to say and really talk about what they want to talk about
Yeah.
and really say what
Less
they want to say
hatred too.
and not sort of
Yeah.
be kind of curbed by these billionaires that own the platform. So
crazy.
So yeah, so I'm on that now too. So it's Amanda Leigh Brown on there.
Cool.
Yeah, so stay tuned for,
Great.
more music and more talks about how we can be better people.
This has been
Amen
a
to
lovely
that.
chat, and you're
Amen
just
to that.
such a beautiful
Likewise.
person.
Yes, thank you,
Thank
Amanda.
you, guys.
You're a
Thank you guys
legend.
for having me.
Thank you.
This was so much fun. I will literally come and talk whenever. 'Cause
We'll
I
do
love
that.
a chat.
We'll do more.
We'll
do more.
We've gone through I think this is maybe like our 17th episode or something like that.
15 or 16,
16.
something like that.
So we'll be due soon
You'll
for a
rotate.
check-in,
Yeah.
with
Okay,
some
cool.
folks. So.
Okay,
We're
perfect.
building our
Yeah.
community.
Love that. I love
That's
that.
part of the reasons of
extending the
this.
community and showing our community to the world.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah.
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 Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Ben and Bren show. See you guys on the flip.
Stuff you know and stuff you don't. It's the Ben and Bren Show.